Let's do it.
All right, great. So I'll just kick it off a little bit. So this is Parabolic Coffee, and I'm really excited to talk to Wendy today. Literally, the premise of this segment of Going Parabolic is to reach out to people who I'm generally interested in, who have been around for a while in the space, and that are really unique. And I found you to be super interesting. So I appreciate you taking the time to have coffee today.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm actually very excited to talk to you. Because we banter a lot back and forth on Twitter, which is fun. I love Twitter for that because a lot of people don't understand how important networking is, and especially in crypto, because we're such like a subculture of a bigger culture of like a subculture, and there's so many different people immersed in the space, and then just life in general. It's important to network and talk to people. And when I was younger, I didn't do that because I had no idea. I had no one to teach me about business or about maintaining like too many relationships. So I didn't know too much about networking. And then as I got older and as I started to kind of pay attention to what was going on around me, I'm like, oh, you have to talk to people. You have to put yourself out there. That's how people are able to get jobs or get opportunities or do different things.
So true. So Wendy, before we dive into whatever we're going to talk about, tell me a little bit about kind of your background, because you seem like a super interesting person. Like, what got you to where you are right now?
Okay, so my background is very different from probably like 95% of people in crypto. I don't come from money. I don't come from like a family with money. I grew up very, very poor. My dad passed, my parents actually were pretty wealthy, like not like super wealthy, but they were like upper middle class, like back in the 80s, both made six figures when they were both working. My parents, they got married, they had kids. My dad was a traditional finance guy. He actually did loans for lots of celebrities, like high level loans.
So he was a banker to the stars. Was he doing that independently, or was he doing it through another bank?
He was doing it. I don't remember what bank it was because I was so young, but I remember going to his office and he was like one of the higher ups. And I think the last house that we went to before he got sick and he had to quit was one of the Jurassic Park stars.
Oh, wow.
So he went because he would get invited to go places and my mom would come and they would bring me because I was very intelligent at a young age. I was able to talk and like memorize things. It was kind of like a cool party trick. So we used to go do a lot of that stuff, but then he got sick. So he ended up quitting his job. My mom ended up divorcing him. So I grew up like super poor. We went from living in like
how old were you when your parents got divorced?
7.
Wow. So you were young, and that was a pretty big change for you and your mom?
Oh my God. Yeah. So it was me, my mom, and my 2 sisters and my dad.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom is Italian, like hardcore Italian Sicilian. And my dad was Jewish. He was like Romanian and German. So when you get like old school is like when you get married, you're married forever. So my mom divorced my dad and that was like, oh my God. So we went from living in a really nice house, brand new home, 4-bedroom house with kids, like all kinds of stuff, to moving to my grandma and my great aunt's house. It was a 2-bedroom townhouse. So it was my grandma and my aunt in one room, and then me, my mom, my 2 sisters in the other room. And it stayed that way for until I was like 15, 16. Okay. So then my grandma and my aunt, they ended up going back east, and my grandma got her own place. And then it was just still me and my sisters in the house. So I had a very interesting childhood. We went from having like money to nothing. Things are very, when you're that age, things are really awkward. So, and then I started getting into trouble when I was younger, when I was like 13 to 18, that was like my crazy. And
what does trouble look like for you?
I don't want to go into, I don't have a record, but I was wild. I had friends from like all different backgrounds. It was kind of like, now that I look back on it, like I had friends that were athletes. I had friends that were musicians, friends that were punk rockers, friends that were artists, like just all different types of people. So I actually kind of like stayed with I started becoming really rebellious around like 17 to 21. Yep. And I started hanging out with musicians, and then I moved out to Hollywood, and I was dating somebody who was a musician, and I was out every night just having fun and whatever. So I got to hang out around a lot of really cool people, and I met a lot of cool people. I used to go to the Rainbow on Sunset a lot, to the Roxy, to the House of Blues, like all those really cool places, to crazy penthouse parties, all different types of stuff. But so I did all that stuff. And then like, I decided one day I needed to get my stuff together, clean my life up.
Why?
So why? Because, I was going to kill myself if I didn't.
No, no, really. This is an interesting inflection. Like it sounds like you're going down one direction, which is fine. Party, having a good time. People do that. But then you wake up one day and you decide that you want to do something different.
Mhm.
Why did that happen? Like what caused the change? Was it someone passing? I'd like to understand it.
I actually have another interesting thing about me. A lot of people might not understand, but I've had many people die that I love throughout my life
Yeah,
since my dad died. I want to say from when I was like 16 to 21, between me and my sisters, we would have a friend or family member pass away every 4 months. It seemed like.
Incredible. Were they older or was there
No,
like
they were
accidents or?
No, they were young. Like some were overdosing, some were
Whoa.
cancer, some were like, street stuff. Like, so it was, we always knew somebody who was like passing away. So I'm very, when it comes to death, I'm always kind of a little bit numb to it just because it's like
Yeah.
been so much and it's been so heavy. But when I was 21, it was like a kind of a tipping point for me. It's either like you either get your stuff together or you're going to die. There's a saying in,
Wow.
there's a saying in recovery, and I was never in recovery because I didn't, my stuff wasn't like super bad, but they say if you don't get help, you generally are going to end up dead, jail, or incarcerated, like, something like
Incredible.
that.
Incredible.
So I was just after a while, because I had been partying and just hanging out and not really, I didn't have a lot of confidence. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't have guidance from my mom because my mom was a single parent raising 3 girls,
Mhm.
and then there was no male figure involved at all in our lives. So I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I remember I was with a buddy of mine and we went to go get the car wash. We were in Hollywood on Sunset Boulevard. And he's like, you need to get a real job. And I was like, I don't want a real job. He's like, well, you can't live here anymore. And I was like, well, I need to get a job then. So we're at a car wash. So I went and I applied. There was a thrift store next door. He's like, you should just go apply there. I was like, okay, fine. Because I was working in like bars and nightclubs and stuff when I was that young. So I actually I found out that they had a corporate office, and come to find out it is actually the largest HIV/AIDS
Wow.
corporation in the world.
It's pretty
So
heavy. How old were you then?
I was 21.
21, and you're now going to dive into the world of terminally ill people with communicable diseases.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Got it.
so I went and they hired me for the job. I remember my first manager. He was the most amazing gay man I had ever met. I was always really close with the gay community. I had some friends that were gay men, and growing up, they were some of my best friends because I tend to get along better with men than with women because I have a very strong personality. So he hired me. He gave me a chance. I was a complete hot mess. And then I realized that the company was more than just thrift stores, that they had healthcare facilities that we were actually,
Wow.
I'm not going to name what the company it is, but if you do enough digging, you can figure it out. But they actually had healthcare facilities, and they provide, that company still actually provides healthcare for majority of patients living with infectious disease, living with HIV/AIDS. So they had healthcare centers and they had hospice. They were like on the front lines when HIV/AIDS was like this big thing, when people were dying and they didn't know what the heck it was. They had hospices, they had doctors, they had like this big network of people that would come in and be on the front lines, really. So I found that out. I was like, oh, and then I also found out that they had education reimbursement. So I was like, oh, this is cool. I can work full time. I can make money. I could go back to school, have somebody else pay for it, and then get a job making double what I was making. So I was like, this is cool. So I did the thrift store thing for like 2.5 years. I did my extern hours to do because I wanted to get involved in pharmacy because it just seemed like a chill job. Again, I had no direction. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And then, so I got my license and I was able to go ahead and go in and do, pharmacy tech stuff. And then
That's awesome. So that was your entry point into healthcare. So you turned this around, went straight in. Tell me, did you have any experience with hospice at all, or was that just a component of the services that were offered there?
Yeah, it was just a component of this. Go ahead. Sorry.
And I was going to say, and why did you choose pharmacy? And because I think that's interesting too, but it was just another service that they offered.
So it just seemed, out of all, I didn't necessarily I didn't want to be a nurse because I support and I love our nurses. Our nurses are absolutely phenomenal. I just couldn't, I could do it if I needed to because I've helped people before like that, like on a physical level, but I just wasn't interested in being that close to somebody.
Yeah, I understand. So pharmacy served kind of your appetite to go into healthcare.
Yeah. Well, when you're working a crappy minimum wage job let's talk a little bit about the thrift stores I worked in. The
Yeah,
thrift stores that
please.
I worked on the West Side, which is in a very, very, very nice neighborhood. Like everybody that's there, they're extremely bougie. They've got a lot of money. And when you work in a thrift store, when you're around that type of environment, you generally get a lot of rich people with money, and a lot of them are cuckoo if they shop at thrift stores. And then you get a lot of homeless people, you get a lot of addicts, you get a lot of just people with very interesting pasts. Like I met the craziest people. Like there was this woman, I remember her, she was like 80 years old. She would come in the thrift store. She was apparently this really famous French model. And
Wow.
she came in and she would wear black high heels and black clothes and very thin, and she was still hot at 80. But that was just one of the interesting people that I had met. So I had transferred from the West Side, and then I worked in at the Pasadena location because that was a little bit different, or it was a little bit closer to where I was at. But I noticed that a lot of the people that would come in, was able to build really strong relationships with them. And the homeless people that would come in, they were locals to the neighborhood. So they would come in and they would start problems. They would steal. They would just be like absolutely like psychotic. So I figured out at that age, when I was working in doing customer service at the thrift store, I found out that you can't fight with people who are mentally ill. The way that you deal with it is you become friends with them. You talk to them, you get to know their story, you learn about them, and then you are able to kind of bargain with them. And you're kind of say, hey, if you're going to come in the store, I'll give you I'll give you an outfit from the dollar rack. Just don't spit on other customers and don't fight people and don't steal. Just come in, get your stuff and go. And because, sometimes they smelled, they would urinate in the store, like all kinds of
It's tough. Yeah.
crazy stuff. So you have to be very creative when it comes to people who are mentally ill. So I took that mentality with me over an infectious disease. And I had no idea really what I was getting into at that point. But when you work in infectious disease, when you're working with patients who are going to be recurring patients to you at your site, because I manage 200 to 300 patients a month, you have to figure out a way to communicate with them, to relate to them. And there's no way that a straight white woman can relate to a black gay man or a black gay transgender man that's HIV positive.
Why?
Well, there's a lot of differences. Number one, I'm straight. I've never had the discrimination of being gay, because there's a lot of discrimination when you are attracted to the opposite sex. And then also too, I was never HIV positive. So
and let me just ask a few questions here. So when you say relate, I guess you don't have to totally, embody every experience that someone's had, but can you be empathetic, and can you be kind, and can you try to understand, and can you display, human caring? Because I expect that's what you did.
That's exactly what I did.
I tend, and I hate to even say I here, but, I tend not to, in my own life, everybody has a story and their thing. And as I've gotten older, if you want to date a lamp, go do it. If you're happy, I'm fine with that. And I just want you to be happy. And I don't feel like I can't have a conversation with you because I don't date lamps. Does that make sense?
No, it totally does. And I guess I used the wrong word, relate. It was more of like, when you're dealing with somebody who's got a lot of issues.
Because I would say you have a tremendous skill set that you've carried through life. You've been exposed to a lot of adversity as a young girl. Then you had these traumatic events occur over and over. Then you had this experience where it was fine. You were partying, doing your thing. But all of those things have built Wendy into who she is today.
Correct. So I guess the word relate was might not have been the best word, but you have to figure out how to get on somebody else's level, to kind of understand the experiences. Of course, be empathetic, not let them walk all over you. Because a lot of my patients, they would come in angry, and they would come in mad, and they would want to take it out on me. And I remember I had this one patient, he was positive, and he came in because he wanted an early refill of his Xanax. And I was like, Xanax is a scheduled medication. You can't just give early refills for it. Like, number one, the insurance is not going to cover it. Number two, the doctor's not going to sign off of it. I know that he didn't really lose his medication, but I was pregnant at the time, and he was screaming in my face.
That's a tough one.
I was like 7 months pregnant, and I was like, are you done? And he's like, yes. I was like, I says, in order for me to help you, I need you to help me help you. And in order to do that, you have to talk to me calmly. And if you yell at me, it's going to make me not want to help you. So why don't you take a seat across the pharmacy, sit down. When you're ready to speak to me again like an adult, then come over and we can talk.
Mhm.
So he did.
And it worked.
Oh, he did. Yeah. So he did. He went and he sat down, and then he came back about 10 minutes later. He's like, "Can I talk to you?" I says, "Yes." He's like, "First and foremost, I'm sorry." I says, "I appreciate that." I was like, "I understand that you're frustrated. I understand that your meds are out. Da, 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 da." I said, "So tell me what happened." He told me what happened. I was able to, get a hold of his doctor and get his meds refilled for him a little bit early. And I told him, I said, I wasn't like, "I know what you're doing. This is not going to happen again." I just told him, I was like, "Make sure that you talk to your doctor possibly about increasing your monthly supply so that this doesn't happen again." So I learned that, and this was like later on in the career there, but I learned that when you're dealing with people with many different issues, like men, and like these people, they were in like subsets of cultures. There's so many just different, cultural things about it, that you have to be very empathetic towards it. You got to hold your ground, but you have to know them and put an effort in to get to know them. And so that's what I did. And it worked because, it was just me and the pharmacist that was in there, and my patients would only come in when I was there. Like the days that I was off, they wouldn't come in to get their stuff, just because, and this is not a diss at any medical professionals, but there's a lot of doctors and pharmacists that are very, very math smart. So they're able to get into these programs, they're able to become doctors, but they don't necessarily have the people skills. And people that are math smart or STEM smart, a lot of times it doesn't translate into people skills. That's why you need people with good customer service experience. So you get these doctors and you get these pharmacists that their head is like huge because they graduated from this school and they think that they know everything, when in reality, a lot of the pharmacists I worked with, they would sit and Google stuff like medication regimens on Google. And I'm just like, are you guys serious? Like,
Right. I always find it, I have a lot of patience for people who are sick and trying to engage healthcare, because not only are they sick and scared, but then they're dealing with the financial stuff. And there's so lack of transparency, or such a lack of transparency in healthcare, that, I always really took my own pulse when patients would get upset or would be, yelling at a nurse or yelling at the front desk. I really just went at it like you're saying, like, gosh, I'm just trying to relate to you.
right. That's actually another topic too, is that part of my job, I wasn't just like a cashier. I didn't just ring people up and fill their medication. I don't think I worked in the pharmacy for 7 years, and I stopped filling prescriptions after the first year. And I really focused, because the company was even though it was this big, huge corporation, they were so cheap. They didn't want to hire people. They started paying attention to spreadsheets and to numbers. And that's kind of like another conversation.
Yeah.
But my job was basically patient retention. And what I did is I managed their cases for them. I managed their insurance. I did the claims for them. I made sure that they went to see their doctors. I made sure that if they were having some sort of mental issues, they were going to their AA, or they were going to their psychiatrist, or whatever the deal was. Sometimes I would work with the HIV counselors to place patients into homes or facilities. I was doing a lot of stuff. So, and then I also did training because we switched computer systems. So I had to train like 6 or 7 different sites on how to integrate the new CRM database and all kinds of crazy stuff.
So you spent a big portion of your career in healthcare.
Yeah.
So what do you think of the United States healthcare right now? Like, what do you think? Is it great?
No, it's absolutely terrible. And and people are going to get mad that I say this, but when Obamacare got approved, it made things so difficult for my clients. Like, absolutely, it was so complicated. It was so difficult.
Everyone got healthcare or access to healthcare.
Well, that's not the case. That's not the way that it works. The people, what ended up happening is, and this happened, some of the stories I have are really, really crazy. If you make under a certain income, then your healthcare is covered under the ACA. But prior to, I'm trying to think because it's been a while, but if you make under a certain income, your healthcare is covered. So what a lot of my clients would do when the ACA got approved is what they would do is they would quit their jobs and they would just get on all government benefits so that they can get the health insurance, because if they worked a regular job, they wouldn't have their HIV medications covered. And HIV medication is very expensive.
Yeah.
It goes anywhere between $3,000 to $10,000 a month, depending on your regimen.
Wow.
So they would quit their job. There's like different loopholes and different things you do, but the ACA made it a lot lot more complicated. And then with the ACA, you're not able to switch doctors as much as you want to. What happens is the insurance companies, a lot of times they assign you a doctor, and it might not be the doctor you want. And if you have a specific illness, like let's say you're HIV positive, you have to go to specific doctors. They won't let you go. Like, let's say you had a PCP that wasn't necessarily an infectious disease specialist, but you were going to that doctor since you were diagnosed with HIV AIDS.
And you liked them.
And you like them, they would force you and make you go somewhere else.
Right,
and
because it was an out-of-network physician and they wanted you to go to this physician because of cost or whatever.
Yeah, and it was like absolutely terrible, because when you're dealing with infectious disease patients, if you treat them right, they will be loyal to you and they will be loyal to your site forever.
But Wendy, wasn't the big selling point of Obamacare the fact that it didn't exclude you for having a pre-existing condition?
So that is true. And so they didn't exclude you from having a pre-existing condition, but they made you switch doctors, and they kind of compiled you into this. If you have insurance through Obamacare, through the ACA, then you have to do what they tell you to do. If you have private insurance, you have more options, but it's still not as good. Cause I've been on government insurance and I've been on private insurance. So it's still not as good as it was before the ACA was implemented. Like almost every single one of my patients complained about the ACA, and they were all Democrats, like 99% of them.
But Wendy, do you have an idea on how to fix healthcare? Like, and this may be, I'm just really interested in, because you've spent so much time in it. I mean, if you could give me, 5 sentences on how you'd fix healthcare. I mean, what are the big things that you think need to be there to fix the system?
There's really a lot to it. One of the big issues that I think with healthcare is that some of the requirements to actually work in healthcare, they don't need to be there. There's a lot of, I mean, obviously for doctors and for surgeons and for people that are prescribing medication, yes, you do need schooling for it. But like to be a CNA, or to be like a pharmacy technician, or to be like even some of the lower level like nursing, you shouldn't need to pay like $20,000 to go to school to get a certificate. A lot of it can actually be, a lot of the training can be done.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, Wendy, don't you think that training in general and school in general has really been changed during this pandemic and slowdown, where online classes and teleconferencing, all of that stuff is expedited and changed the game in such a big way that, to your point, I think the way we had done it in the past is going to go away, because it had a lot of economic incentives to do it the old way that we've caught on now. And it's like, okay, you and I can talk. We don't have to drive or fly across the country. And if you were a professor teaching me things like you are today, should I have to pay full freight for that, or can I pay some reduced amount? I love your point about that. In medicine, it's like see one, do one, teach one. And if you get the lecture and then you see someone do something and then you can prove the competency, why not do it the cheapest way possible? I totally agree with you.
Yeah, I think, and this is the thing, like I had made a post on Twitter and people got so mad about it. And that's just because they read it and they didn't understand what I was saying. But it was kind of like a shit post in a way, but I'm in school. I'm done with school now. I finally got my bachelor's. It took me like 7 years to get it.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It was mostly for my dad, because if my dad was alive, he expected
me to go to school.
He was Jewish. So Jews, what they do is you study, you work really hard, you get into a good school, you become a doctor or a lawyer, you do business, and then you go marry another Jew. That's what my dad would have wanted. Unfortunately, I married a Latino. And
did you say fortunately or unfortunately?
Unfortunate for my father. My dad would have been,
yeah.
My dad would have been like, because my dad was super old school. He didn't know. Like my mom doesn't care, but my dad would have been like, what,
the heart does what the heart wants.
Exactly. But, and I made a shit post and I said, college is worthless. Like you're better off getting a job, getting a minimum wage job, working at McDonald's, learning people skills, because a lot of these kids, because I'm way old, I'm older than most people in crypto. And what I noticed in school when I went to business school, I'm like, there's kids in here that they're like 21, 22, and they never had a job. They never worked at McDonald's. They never worked at Starbucks. They never worked in an office. So they don't have people skills. They know how to get by in like school. They know how to read and to memorize things. But when you're in a unique situation with another person, that is not going to necessarily agree with you or see things your way. You have to be able to talk to them and to communicate with them. And college doesn't teach that. College is great for networking and for meeting other people. But now, since everything is online, you're not
True.
How are you going
But
to
didn't your
network?
life experiences, Wendy, give you this high level, like emotional IQ, I would call it? Like you're tuned in at a totally different level because of your life.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't, if I was doing a 6-week lecture on being a good person or being a good listener or having a high level emotional IQ, you may get it. I doubt it. It's your life that gave you this great
Right.
capacity to always think like, how do I resolve this conflict? Or, you're not going to talk to me like that, which I really do appreciate. I think confidence is super important. It doesn't mean being kind and compassionate and loving doesn't mean you have to get rolled over.
Exactly. And that's what I would tell my clients, like, cause they would come in and they would get so mad about stuff. And it was a lot of times their insurance would expire and they let their insurance expire because they weren't being responsible. You have your insurance. I think it's ADAP, which is like the Ryan White healthcare for people living with HIV/AIDS, but you have to renew it twice a year. And they knew that going into it, and they would just forget. And then they would come in the pharmacy and they'd be screaming at me. And I said, listen, this is what happened. And I would never say this is your fault. One thing you don't say with people is you never say you did this is your fault. What you say is, okay, this is what happened. Your insurance is expired. So what we're going to do to fix this, take a seat. I'm going to submit this paperwork. I'm going to call the insurance company. I'm going to see about getting your stuff approved. And if I can't do that, then I can do this and I can provide this for you. I can give you a 3-day vacation supply. And then one of the other really cool things that I came up with, and I trained the other staff to do this, is that I want to say ADAP gives and actually all insurance companies, they give a free emergency supply or a free loss travel supply or a loss supply. So what you can do is you can actually, if let's say you have diabetes, you have a medication that you have to take every month, you can actually go to your doctor or your pharmacy and say, hey, can you send a PA for this? And the insurance company will cover it. So I would always have my clients do that. I would always do extra.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I had a system to where I would fill their stuff like 3 to 7 days early, depending on the insurance, so that they would always have extra. But I would come up with solutions for them. And even if they left the pharmacy without their medication or without getting what they wanted, I was able to allow them to leave without being angry and being upset, because I said, this is what I am going to do to help you.
So Wendy, why didn't you start your own business? I mean, all the things you're saying to me right now are like the best employee in the world for the most part. You have all these great skills. You act like an owner. You think like an owner. You sound super committed to your education, etc. Why not open your own business? Like, maybe you have. Yeah. Okay. So let's go.
Okay, so currently I have a company. It's called Beyond Associates. It's a LLC. I have a legal team that helps me deal with all this stuff, but I do a lot of marketing for companies in the space. I shield projects sometimes.
All right, so hold on, because that's really cool. So your business is a marketing business around different cryptocurrency inventions or opportunities, because I see you coming with like cake wallet and cake and cookies. I don't even know the different things, but I see, I fortunately or unfortunately, I'm super focused on like one segment of crypto, but I'm really interested in this. So it's a business and it's a marketing arm and it's something that you started.
Yeah. So what I did is because I got into doing the YouTube stuff and I had no idea. I don't like being on camera. I don't like it. I feel awkward.
Well, welcome to being on camera.
Thank you. Yeah. So I've got over 500 videos. I stutter. I slur my words sometimes because my mind is doing this like a million miles a second. And because a lot of people were given a lot of influencer shit about shilling projects, I was like, you know what? I need to find out more about this if I'm going to be doing this and making it income. So I started an LLC. I have an attorney. I've got disclosures everywhere. I do everything that's compliant with I do everything that is under the SEC. I want to say it's section 1933 or something like that. So I do that. And under this LLC that I do, I'll come up with like custom marketing plans for companies. I'll shield their projects if they want me to. I do consulting for them. I do business development. I've got a huge, huge network in crypto, like completely huge network. I don't talk about it. I don't talk about it a lot because people, they don't get it, but I do a lot of contract work in the back too. So I have that business that that's just like my daily stuff I do, but I'm actually going to be starting a brand new business that's going to be focused around cryptocurrency and tech, providing a solution for some things. And that will have nothing to do with, it's not going to integrate blockchain technology. It's not going to have a token. It's just going to be a website, and it's going to be a service, and eventually an app one day.
How long have you been interested in crypto, and what brought you to this space? I mean, you're in a pharmacy, you're doing your thing for a number of years. Why crypto?
So I've always been very entrepreneurial, always. I just never had the
Why,
confidence to.
why do you think you've been entrepreneurial?
Because I had an eBay business throughout my whole entire career in healthcare, and I had that eBay business. And what I would do is, because I worked in the thrift store, so I learned a little bit about like when I
Hustling.
worked. Yeah, I've had to hustle my whole life. I've literally had to fight to stay alive my whole entire
I get
life.
it.
So I learned about designer clothing, and I was like, oh, I was like, somebody's donating this clothing to the thrift store for free, and then I can sell this for $50 a piece or $100 a piece. I was like, oh, and I get a 30% discount. This is really cool. So what I would do is I would wait till the stuff went on the dollar rack. I would buy the stuff. I would get my discount. I'd pick stuff up for like $1 to 70 cents, and I would resell it on eBay. And I made enough to cover being in community college. So I paid for my community college that way.
Huge win.
Yeah. So it was like, I think that was like $10,000. It wasn't a whole lot, but community college, I was able to cover it. We did like a couple of vacations. And then when I went over to work in West Hollywood at the pharmacy, there was a store down the street, and it was called the $2 store. And the people that owned the store, the lady, she was Jewish. They had a lot of connections in the entertainment industry. So they had this big white van, and they would pick up clothing from all the movie sets, all designer stuff, and they would toss it in a pile in the middle of the store. And you would sit, like, the pile was, it was literally, the store was like 500 square feet, and they would toss all the clothes in a pile, and it would be up to the ceiling sometimes, and everybody would jump in the pile, and you would just buy stuff. Everything was $2. And if you bought 10 pieces, it would be, you bought 5 pieces, you got one free. So then I was able to get like better quality stuff, and then, continue to do that. So I always had this entrepreneur thing, and I'm super bullish on Dave Ramsey. I'm very bullish on not being in debt. I was in debt once in my life, and ever since then, I've never been in debt again, except for the house that I bought, because in California,
Expensive.
Most people don't have $500,000 to cash.
Yeah.
So I did that, and then Dave Ramsey said,
and why are you afraid of debt?
Why am I afraid of debt?
Yeah, why?
Because I've been poor my whole life, and debt is an anchor. There, don't get me wrong, there is some good debt. If you're a business owner, sometimes you do have to borrow money to keep your business afloat. But to me, debt, if you're debt on a brand new car, is an anchor. Debt on a $2,000 designer bag is an anchor. If you're getting your nails done, you're getting your lashes done, you're going to fancy dinners, you're putting it on a credit card, and you're not paying your bill, and you can't write that stuff off for tax purposes, that is an anchor. It is going to bring you down. You don't own the stuff. And if you don't have the cash to pay for it, you don't deserve it yet. You haven't worked it hard enough for it.
I love that. Yeah. Like this debt, being free of debt is like giving yourself options. And I love your perspective on that. I've talked recently about, where I think debt is okay. I don't like plunking a lot of money into illiquid situations, even a home. I think if you can get a home and you right size the home so that it doesn't consume more than 20% of your after tax money, go use leverage to take that on. But I think your strategy is super sweet. So sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's okay.
Big thumbs up on avoid debt.
Yeah, no. And with our house, like I want to say our mortgage is like $2,300 a month, but in California, we have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. And in California, you can get a 2-bedroom apartment for like $2,000.
Incredible.
So,
super expensive.
So for us, it was important for us to get the house, and we both worked really hard. We saved. So I was actually able to buy the house before I was 30, which I was extremely proud about, because I don't know anybody that's been able, like from my group, the people I grew up with. But that's, and the house there's certain things you get to write off, but debt is just, it can be crippling, and it's stressful. It keeps people up at night. People get divorced, relationships end over debt. So to me, debt is not a good thing. If you don't have the cash to buy something, you don't deserve it yet. You got to wait.
Yeah. And it's really interesting to me that you're starting a business, or your entrepreneurial endeavor is in this like asset light class. So you've taken your experience with, I want to avoid debt, but I also want to start a business. I'm not going to go borrow a bunch of money to start my business. So you're leveraging kind of probably your home, and maybe you're the only employee, you're outsourcing some of the work that you need done, you don't have in-house counsel. I'm making a lot of assumptions because I just don't know much about you, but those principles are really good ones, and it shows people that if you have a good idea, you don't need tons of money to start a business.
Well, with my crypto stuff, I have a spare bedroom in the house, and this is my office. This is where I do my
That's
work.
right. And that's when you were saying you can write off, or you can capture
Yep.
some efficiencies by having a home office.
Yes, you
Yeah,
get to.
talk about that a little bit.
I get to write that off. I get to write off some of the gas. I get to write off like this microphone. I get to write that off. I get to write the desk off. I know my husband, for his business, there's all kinds of cool stuff that he can write off. And
Is he home too?
He has an office, because I kicked him out of the house went to work, because our house is so small. Our house is like 1,200 square feet. He refuses to use an office. So he sits at the kitchen table, and the baby's there. So the baby wants to be with him because she doesn't understand. So he gets frustrated. I'm like, listen, hold on one quick second.
Yeah, no worries. We'll take this break to like, subscribe, hit your notifications. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. Sorry. So I told him, I was like, because he's got a business partner too, and his story is actually really interesting. I can't talk too much about it because it's not my story, but he comes from the group of people, the statistical group he comes from. They don't make it. They don't make it. They end up either dead or they end up in jail. And
incredible.
He made it. He's got
awesome.
He's got the most amazing entrepreneurial story. So him and his business partner both come from the same type of background, and they have been killing it. Their business is just doing so well. I'm so proud of him. But they've been able to keep 20 plus people, 20 plus dudes employed during COVID because they're essential workers. He's an electrical contractor. So shout out to him. But I told him, I was like, you need to get an office because you can't get frustrated with us when you're home and like we're talking or whatever, because we got a really small house. So he's able to write off all the work vehicles and the gas and like some dinners, just all different types of stuff from starting a business. But one thing I do want to tell the audience and people listening is that you can't just leave your day job without having a plan, without having an emergency fund. Like when I quit my job to go to school full time right before I did crypto, when I quit, we had an emergency fund of 3 months to cover all the bills. So God forbid something happened, like we have money in the bank to cover it. And I also want to add, when I quit my job pretty quickly after I had my daughter, just because I didn't want to do it anymore. I wasn't really working in a safe neighborhood. It was just, I was 3 hours away from my child. I was nursing at the time. It was just too much. And I needed to finish school. So I quit my job to finish school. And then a month later, my husband, after me nagging him for years saying, you need to start your own business, he's like, no, I'm not doing it. There was multiple fights that happened about it. And then one day, like a month after I quit my job, he goes, oh, me and my business partner, we're going to start a business. And I was like, oh, really? And he's like, yeah. So he quit his job making good money because he was a breadwinner to start his business, and they've just been excelling and just doing a great job. So you can't just quit your business without having a plan or having an emergency fund. And one thing that you guys need to understand too is you start a side hustle when you have a 9 to 5, and you gradually work on building it up and building it up and building up. You don't just quit your job and just say, okay, well, God's going to take care of me. This is going to take care of me. You have to have a plan. I don't know anybody, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know anybody who's quit their job without a plan or without a savings and just said, oh, this is going to be wonderful.
Wendy, people do it all the time, unfortunately. People quit their jobs all the time because they're impulsive. They don't have a plan. They don't have the kind of drive that you have. I mean, I've been to countries where there's no entrepreneurial spirit at all. Okay. None whatsoever. It probably would be shocking to you to talk to someone and say, why are you sitting here? Like, why don't you drive an Uber or do something to lift yourself out of poverty? There's no interest in it. They just maybe collect fish all day, or this person maybe goes and gets water, but there's no entrepreneurial spirit. You go to a different country, bordered, go to a different country, everybody's hustling. It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
A lot of it is a cultural thing.
Yeah.
And I can speak on that because my husband's family is very like his dad. And my
Yeah,
husband was
I come from immigrant family, a family just like I expect you do, and I don't want to be cavalier in saying this, but I don't know anything else other than to work hard and start businesses. You know, I my family was uneducated when they came here, and only kind of the kids that are my age went to college. Before that, no one did. They owned bars and pizza places, etc. So,
right.
you know, it's natural for me to have 9 jobs.
Well, I think a lot of it is a cultural thing. Like my husband's family, for example, and I don't know if this is like a Latino thing or if this is like just the way his family is, but on both sides of his family, they're very hard workers. They're blue collar workers, and they're just know all they're focused on is just getting up, going to work, and paying their bills and coming home. That's all that they're focused on. So it was really hard for my husband to get out of that mindset, because I kept telling him, I was like, you've been an electrician for 20 years. You did the office work. You've managed jobs with like 20 guys on it. Like, you know how to do all of this stuff. Why not? Why instead of, because he's really big into NASCAR and go-karting and racing, like dirt track racing. I was like, all of the people that do this, they're all contractors and they all are business owners. And that's how they're able to pay for this expensive hobby. I says, if you want to do it professionally, if you want to do that full time, then you have to be a business owner. And that's how we're going to get out of this like 9 to 5 BS. So eventually he did it. And I think it's just really a cultural thing. I do a show with Hotep Jesus and we talk about relationships a lot, but we also talk about entrepreneurial stuff because he owns 3 tech businesses, which is amazing. One is a crypto company, one is an AI company. And he says that, sometimes people just need a push, or they need to be taught how to become an entrepreneur. And because you can learn, but it's scary. A lot of people
Interesting.
I feel like a lot of people are scared. And he's got a book about it. He's got a course about it. But I think a lot of people are just scared. And I can relate to that because I was scared because I grew up so poor. And I thought in my head, if I don't work this 9 to 5, then I'm going to be poor. I'm going to be back on the streets again. Cause I was homeless for a little bit. So I didn't want that again. I wanted to always have a roof over my head. Like even my tiny house is like 1,200 square feet. I never had my own bedroom. So now that I've got an office and I have a bedroom, like I have things now, and I never wanted to lose that. But then I realized, okay, you are not going to become you're not going to become truly happy unless you take a chance. You have one life to live. Yes, I may become reincarnated or something like that. I don't know. But at least right now in the present, I don't want to be miserable. And once I start getting, and like my new thing is if I'm miserable with something, I'm going to find something else to replace it.
I love it. I really think, thought a lot about the statement that you made that you can learn to be an entrepreneur. And because I've seen classes or whole didactic setups at universities that teach entrepreneurship, and I haven't been able to convince myself that you can learn to be Elon Musk, or you could learn to be Jeff Bezos, or you can learn to be an entrepreneur that will never quit. Like, I don't know if those are taught or what, but maybe you can. It's maybe you can pick up some of the skills that you need, but I just always feel like in my heart of hearts that people who don't really have that appetite to do whatever it takes and sacrifice everything for whatever that goal is, I don't know how you teach someone that. And the people who were taught that will give up. And that may be totally wrong.
So the first thing that was wrong with your statement is that you don't want to take an entrepreneurial class at a college because you're going to pay an F ton of money, and you're probably not, because I was in the entrepreneur club in school, and it was great because I got to talk with other entrepreneurs. I got to learn things, but there's a trick. And a lot of people don't know about this trick. One of the tricks is the Small Business Association in the United States of America. It's a completely free organization that you can find a mentor. Like, let's say, because one of the things that I did is one of my goals in life is I want to own a dive bar, a completely dirty, dingy dive bar, because those are my places to go. Like, I love old jukeboxes. I just like all that type of stuff. That's just who I am. So what I did was and this is like right when I had gotten into crypto, I found the SBA, and they have free mentoring courses that you can go ahead, not courses, but mentoring sessions. And I think you get to meet with a successful entrepreneur that started to open a donut shop or a restaurant or a finance company or whatever it is. And they match you with somebody, and you don't have to pay. You just have to go, and you can come with questions, and they'll answer questions for you, and you kind of pick their brain. I mean, you have to have a drive. And I do think that you can learn, but you have to have an open mind, and you have to be very positive about things. If you come in, because I used to be a very negative person, and I realized that when I was really negative and I was like in my very bad depression stuff, that life was not as, my quality of life was not as good. So I was like, okay, I have to make a change. So I started reading The Secret, and even I would start doing the positive affirmations. So when you change your mindset to a more positive mindset, and then you tell the universe, like, I'm going to become an entrepreneur, like I'm going to make $10,000 a day trading, or whatever it is you want, then things start getting thrown at you. Things start getting pushed your way, and you get to pick and choose what you want to do. But the SBA is a very great resource for people who are interested in starting their own business. Like, you have to kind of know which direction you want to go in, but it's free. So why not go and have a mentoring session with somebody who's a successful entrepreneur that can kind of guide you and kind of teach you some tricks.
Look, two home run statements you just made. One, mentoring. I totally agree. It's been the most valuable asset that I've had in my life. And you grow out of mentors, or you transcend your mentors.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've probably had 3 in my working career so far. I love that. The second point you made, which I don't know about Mercury retrograde or stars aligning or if the moon in the right position. But what I do know is if you mentally can picture something, you can manifest it. And I've certainly used that over and over again. I even feel weird saying this to you, because it's something that if I can't visualize something, and it annoys the people around me, because I ask them questions. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? What does that mean? Because I'm trying to form a picture. I'm trying to understand. Right. And people are so poor at communicating most of the time, or I'm not listening. Who knows what they're talking about? Show me a picture. And if I can get the picture, man, I can manifest this thing. It's really crazy.
And it works though. And a lot of people say, no, it's crazy, it doesn't work, but it actually does work. And I'm living proof, because I'm walking, I'm healthy.
Wendy, you've turned, I mean, the stuff you're saying to me, you drop these like bombs, like I'm homeless or this, or I was around drugs, or I had depression. I mean, it's like, what the heck are you talking about? I mean, how are you where you are today with all the things that you had to deal with? It's incredible.
Because I've seen a lot of stuff, and I mean, I still go through the depression and the anxiety. It's chronic for me. And it's just because of some of the things that I've like been through. And I've got post-traumatic stress too, just from some of the things, like places that I put myself in, or that things that had happened to me in like the area I worked in. So there's things that happen, but at the end of the day, it's like everybody's got their own shit that but everyone's got their own stuff that they're dealing with. And either you can't change it. You can control the way. You can control the way you treat other people and the way you manage your life, but you can't control somebody coming in and hurting you, or somebody doing this to you. You can't do that. So if you sit and you focus like, this person did this, and this, my dad died, and this happened to me, and this person did this to me, then you're just going to be miserable for the rest of your life. And you're here on this world. And if you don't make a conscious effort to at least to pretend you're happy, like to fake it until you make it, your life is going to be miserable. So at least pretend that things are going to get better, and eventually your mind will start to think that way.
I love it. Convince yourself to be happy, right? All right. I've got 5 more minutes. I want to understand, how in the heck did you get into technical analysis? Because it's something that I really noticed about you. You're like, send me 3 coins and let me do TA on it. I love geometry. I love pizza. So pizza is a triangle, and it's a circle. We cut it up. How are you doing that with Bitcoin? I have no idea what's going on.
Okay. So before I majored in business, I wanted to become a pharmacist, because they make $120,000 a year. But pharmacist, your salary is pretty much capped, and that goes for most people in healthcare. So when I first got into crypto, I saw people on crypto Twitter posting charts. I was like, well, if this pizza avatar could do it, then I can do it. I have a math background. I had to take 9 math classes. I've got like 8 associates in math, or whatever the heck. So I just thought to myself, okay, well, if I'm going to be investing my own money, I should kind of know what the heck like why Price is doing this. And, I also like to save money on things. So if I can buy Bitcoin at a discounted price, or if I can buy an altcoin at a discounted price, I'm going to. So I took it upon myself. I bought 2 books on eBay. I think I spent $10, The Idiot's Guide to Technical Analysis and The Dummy's Guide to Candlestick Charting, because I don't come from money. I don't come from, like, my dad was a finance guy, but he's been dead like 20 years. So it's like, I don't have anybody to teach me this stuff. Like, I didn't know anybody enough to teach me this stuff. So I read the books and I was like, oh, this makes sense. This is what we did in calculus, or this is what we did in geometry. So then I got a TradingView account. And then I just started drawing lines on spotting support and resistance areas and drawing lines on the charts. And then, started trading that way.
And you share that information. It's not paid. It's just free.
Never paid. Yeah. Everything I do, I will never have a paid group. I promised that the community that many moons ago. I don't trade all the setups that I post. I'm on my YouTube channel. I go in more detail about that because I want to kind of push people over there. Yep. But I post the charts for free because the community likes it and it's good for engagement. And like, it also keeps me on my game. And if I can spot a good setup, I want to share it with somebody. I post all that stuff for free. And, I've got videos on my channel kind of breaking this complex stuff down and talking about it because technical analysis is important. It's an important tool. It's not 100% accurate, but it is a great tool for people, especially if you're going to be financially governed by yourself and you're making your own decisions.
I love it. And it's probably a discussion for another time, but do you actually trade Bitcoin, come in and out of positions? So you do?
Yes. Mm-hmm. I actually do trade. Wow. I've been in a short for quite a long time and the funding has been eating me, but I do trade. My more successful trades are longer term spot swings. So when I know Bitcoin is going to drop, I'll go onto my favorite exchange and I'll place some low bid orders. Those types of trades, I generally trade anywhere between like 1,000 and 1 BTC. Because I feel more confident when I'm trading, when I'm margin trading Bitcoin, it's generally a couple $100 positions just because I know my risk. I know the way my mind works and it's a lot more stressful, but I make more money on those spot swings.
It's awesome. It's awesome. So, one, this has been amazingly insightful. You've given me an opportunity to know the person behind the charts and the person behind the shit posting, and I enjoy it tremendously. And I really do appreciate you taking the time to talk today. It's super cool.
Well, thank you for having me on. And I'm actually going to DM you later and schedule you to come on because I had Mark. Mark came on my show and talked with me and he's super fun, like just an awesome guy. So I got to get you to come on and talk about some of the stuff you're working on because you post a lot of cool stuff. And I do think you can be the crypto Dave Portnoy.
That's right. Dave Portnoy. That's El Presidente.
Yes.
That's who I want to be.
When you grow up.
That's right. We at Going Parabolic, we support that message. So show me some YouTube channel, crypto. Where can people find you?
You guys, I am Crypto Wendy O. I am the one and only Crypto Wendy O. Yes, I am a real female. Yes, I do actually trade. I am not a catfish. All my handles are Crypto Wendy O. I'm on Instagram. I'm never on Facebook because it's just weird. I am on TikTok. I won't be twerking on there, so don't go to my TikTok page expecting me to twerk because I'm not going to do that. That's for my front porch when the neighbors are having the banda across the street. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Crypto Twitter. Everything is at Crypto Wendy O. If you guys head over to my YouTube channel, I do daily videos talking about Bitcoin's price action. I talk about news. I talk about just a lot of crypto stuff and I break it down differently than some other people do. I am for the poor people. I'm for the lower middle class and middle class because that's where I came from. And if anybody has any questions or wants to get a hold of me, if you go to my bio on Twitter, I've got my Linktree link and it's got all the different social media outlets. And I have a Telegram group that's completely free. We just shit post and talk about rock in there, a lot of music and charts. But you guys can get a hold of me and there I don't answer private DMs anymore.
It's awesome. Well, thanks, Wendy. You have a great day and we'll talk soon.
All right. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.